Welcome to the space for transformational leaders to unleash their magic, see better client results, work lighter, and live sourced. Hello and welcome to today's interview. I'm here with certified sourced leader, Robin Finney. Hi, Robin.
Hello.
Welcome. I'm super excited to get to share you with our YouTube audience. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
So I want to let everybody know who you are to start out. So Robin is an intuitive and authenticity coach for solo experiences. This is her brand. She's an oracle. She's a certified sourced leader at the retreat master level, an international model and world traveler. Also an aunt extraordinaire, or aunt, depending on where you're from. We had a discussion about this. And she's the founder of wanderingant.com. She supports others in exploring the unknown with curiosity so they can show up as their most authentic selves. And she does this through coaching, solo travel retreats, which I'm sure we'll talk about, photo shoot experiences. Robin lives a bold, unconventional life as a nomad. Since 2018, Robin has traveled solo to 22 countries across 6 continents and modeled in 11 international photo shoots as part of her mission to support local photographers, designers, and stylists. Welcome.
Thank you.
So I just want to start by giving full disclosure that I hired you.
Yes.
So I just want to put that in the space because as we dive in and talk about what it means to have a solo experience, how you use your magic in your work, etc., that's on the table. That's game for conversation. Awesome. So I'm really, really excited. Robin is going to help me, or is already helping me, to create a travel experience to Scandinavia this summer, which is where my heritage is. So we'll, I'm sure, talk more about that. Robin, I like to start by asking a couple of questions to all of my guests. So the first is, what difference has it made for you being a sourced leader or using source as a guide in the way that you work?
Yes, it has really transformed the way that I show up, and not only inside of my work, but in my community and with my friends and family. And specifically in my work, it really connects me to really trusting source to guide my services, guide my travels, guide how I work with clients, and really utilize my magic. I'm a primary sensation magician, so it's really supported me in all of those areas.
So people listening may not know what a sensation magician is. I have a lot of it. You have a lot of it. What does that mean? Can you tell people a little bit about that and how it works when you're guiding travels?
Yes. So sensation it's all about feeling. So you feel a lot of sensations in your body and you're constantly like having to move energy. So some people may relate to it if you're very empathic and sometimes you feel things and it just comes on to you and you're like, I don't really know why I'm feeling this. And it's taken me years to discern and learn when it's my energy and when it's not, and sometimes it's a combination. And one thing I've really recognized through my travels is just how much that comes into play with my body, and my body signaling to me when something feels aligned. And it could be something so simple as walking to dinner and I pass a street and my body's like, hey, don't go down that street. And I'm like, okay, great. I'll just keep walking forward. Or the energy. It's just sometimes I've changed many Airbnb bookings because I'll walk into a place and the energy just doesn't feel aligned. And so I've switched. And I think that in itself is what separates being someone who is sourced, because you can easily, you're in that. It's part of my everyday language now. And it's just part of my wheelhouse, my tools. It's innately within me so that I can quickly shift it. Whereas before I had any awareness around this, I would be in like a lot of uncomfortable situations and just put up with. There was a lot of putting up with.
Wow. So you've been to 22 countries and on your own. How, like, I know because we've talked about this keeps you safe. It keeps you protected. You kind of know where you're being guided and where you're not. So can you talk a little bit about that? Like, were you nervous when you started traveling on your own, and how has this helped you?
Yeah, so a little context, I had been traveling internationally since college. I studied abroad and I had traveled all over the world, but always with people. So in 2018, when I set off, it was the first time on my own. So there was definitely that level of excitement, like, ooh, I can go where I want. I can kind of fall in, just figure it out and go follow the flow. And there was that intimidation factor of being on my own and not having people because before I would travel with people who had like set itineraries and everything. And now that's not even part of the way I travel. I show up and allow the place to show me where to go. And that is sourced. Every experience I go on is sourced. And so that's really supported me in that way, and learning to trust my own intuition and trust my sensation magic in that way.
How has it helped you when you work with clients and you plan travel for them?
Yeah, so it allows me to really support them around like any blocks or anxieties that they have coming up. And safety is one of the biggest that people have, especially people who identify as women. That can definitely come up a lot more around that. And so I do a lot of practices in my coaching when that comes up around like tuning into your body and kind of simulating the experience so that people can feel into that and what that might be like. And also, even if it's not in that way related, just getting them comfortable with boosting their confidence muscle. So sending them out on like little challenges or something before they go on their journey, so that when they get to the place, it's already starting to be something that's within them. So when they get there, they're like, oh, okay, I have a little experience doing this already. It might be a little different here because I don't speak the language. So I've found that makes a big difference.
I love that. I know I've heard you talk before about taking yourself out on a date.
Yeah.
And, I occasionally go to movies by myself, and I've had people say like, oh my God, I could never do that. Can you talk about how that is when you're supporting someone to do things alone and what the benefit is?
Yeah. So, I mean, definitely the benefit is you're allowing yourself to, it's getting out of that comfort zone. And specifically like the date, I like that with a restaurant, because for a lot of people they'll go and they're like, oh, I'll just sit at the bar and I can I'll be around people. And I like to challenge people to actually ask for a table, because wherever I go, it's a little confusing, like, just one? And I'm like, yeah, just one person. And it really puts you in the space of being the receiver and being served. And so and then I also invite not to get on your phone, not to have a book or a journal, just literally sit with yourself and learn to receive and be in your own company. And any discomfort that comes up, I just allow people like the space, like, hey, just try it out. Like, start small, go to a coffee shop, sit alone at a table at a coffee shop, and then maybe work your way up if you're not quite ready for that. But it really just allows people, when they're in that energy, to really like get to know yourself more fully. And that's really what these solo journeys are about. So I find that starting small is what really opens people up.
I feel, the going out by myself feels easy, but without the phone, like, I can't imagine how many times I would go to pick it up. So everybody listening, that sounds like a fun challenge. If you do it, come comment back over here and let Robin know.
Yes.
I'm sure
I always say you can use your phone to take a picture and then put it away.
Nice. Okay, so another question I like to ask everybody in these interviews. I have this vision of a world where we're all wearing our sourced t-shirts. And, not that it's about the t-shirt, although we do sell those. But really it's about, like, if you walk through the world and you see people and they are saying, I live this way. I'm sourced, I'm connected, I trust my knowing. What would change in a world like that?
Oh, it would be just such a ripple effect. And I think we would have a space that was just pure authenticity and vulnerability, where people felt brave to just show up however they are. And I think I had commented on this when you were working on your new website. One of the things I love about being in a source community is you can literally be in the space with other source leaders and not say anything at all and feel witnessed and seen. And so when I think about that on like a global scale, the energy is a language, and it would just transcend across just a multitude and allow people, I just imagine it, just the bravery it would take and boldness that people would be able to step into more fully.
Wow, I love that so much. I want to start with energy as a language. So what's your experience with that?
So another big area that I get when I travel is people are intimidated going places where they don't know the language. And I go a lot of places where I don't know the language. And we do have tools we have translate apps and everything now to support with that. But I just always recognize that wherever I go, I cannot even know the language and still be received by someone and receive them as well, and feel their heart, feel their energy. And so I've used this. I've had photo shoots where the photographers, like, we don't speak the same language, but the energy is there. I've sat with Airbnb hosts and they've just talked at me the whole time and shared their story, and I don't fully understand the words, but the energy is there. And that translates on a deeper level.
That idea of traveling somewhere where you don't know the language as a practice at reading energy.
Yeah.
So great. Wow. So, and you use the word brave a couple times, and speaking specifically about being authentic and how brave it is. And I'm guessing that's one of your values.
Yes.
Why is this important to you? I know with the people you support, you're in their corner to help them be brave and be themselves. Why is that so important? Like, share a little bit about how you came to realize that that's important.
I started recognizing when I would travel, and this is when I started feeling that discomfort, when I was in the corporate world and I was working to travel, and I would go to other places and my spirit would just come alive, and I would just recognize, like, ooh, nobody knows me here. I can try on this mask, or I can try on this one. I can play, I can bring out my inner child. And then I would go back and I'd be around people who know me, and I would just numb that because it didn't feel safe. It didn't feel safe to express myself the way that is authentic for me, because as conditioning, like, we're conditioned over time, like, you're too loud, you're too much, you're too bold, too anything, too fill in the blank. And so I found that through travel, that really was the area that was drawing that out of me. And so what I work with my clients on is supporting them in really uncovering more of their authentic self. And it's the piece after. It's like, yes, going out on the journey and building the confidence and everything, but then bringing that back with you so that you're really, like, intertwining those two into, like, your quote everyday life with the travel. And that's been one of my
go out and discover more of who you are, and then it's important to bring it back.
Yeah. And it's an open invitation, because so many times people go, it's like the vacation, it's kind of the vacation fog, or mirror or bubble, whatever you want to call it, where you go and you're so excited, and then the end of the trip comes and you realize, oh, I've got to be back at work on Monday. And then that completely starts changing your mood. So it's really like how to bring that energy and not have it be like, how to be excited no matter where you are, no matter what day of the week it is.
How has that been for you? I know you kept traveling. Obviously, COVID changed that for a while, but how has that been for you, bringing the things you learned about yourself back?
Yeah, it's been one of my age-old questions for years has been, how can I be travel Robin in all areas of my life? And I will say that it has been since, because I started my sourced journey 4 years ago, and then the pandemic hit right at the end of our experience. And it was like so much of what I learned during my year of becoming a certified sourced leader is really like releasing a lot of the conditioning and anything that I had learned to keep myself small. And it really translated into that, and it allowed me to even be content with staying still for a year and a half during a pandemic. And now as I travel and go out places, I find that I'm much more present to where I'm going, and I'm more like, I'm not attached to the experience. And yes, I have certain places I go where I'll be sad to leave. And I recognize, I'm like, this is part of it. I'm going to keep walking my journey, keep showing up, and I can continue to bring that energy of who I am in that space into all areas. And I recognize now that it's like an invitation for others to be that as well. And so it's been me giving myself that permission to really dive in that way.
I remember that process of when you were grounded with COVID and you kind of like, oh gosh, who am I now? And recognizing that had you not done the work you had within yourself, you might have gone crazy. But you were able to move through it and still be travel Robin.
Yeah.
Okay, so I want to share in our work in planning my upcoming journey, we had a desire session recently. And this is part of your process to plan a trip for someone. I can share my side, but do you want to share a little bit about the desire session?
Yeah, so I love the desire session, because one of the practices I have whenever I'm going somewhere is I set intentions for the journey, and I also want to dive a little deeper so that I can understand what the journey is holding for me and what I'm stepping into, what obstacles I may experience along the way, and what I'm going to experience as I come out of it. And so it gives like a little preview into your experience. And while at the time, it's like when we do the sessions, sometimes it makes sense, like some of it will start to click, but then I see over time it really does. And so like one of my clients last year, she had there was like a cleaning house message that was coming up for her, and she ended up getting a new job during the time leading up to her trip. And she found that she was releasing a lot of relationships in her life that were no longer serving where she was. And it was actually like they were no longer in alignment with the person that would be returning home from her solo journey. And so that's what I really love about the experience. And I'd love to hear, like, even diving in with yours, since your journey is so much about ancestral and tapping into those roots and what's showed up for you in that space.
Yeah, I've been sitting with it, and there's quite a few things that came up. So just, to let everybody know, I have traveled a lot, and I've traveled by myself, and I'm pretty adept at following what source brings. And so when I got the nudges to go to Scandinavia, and really like I was seeing Norse mythology everywhere, and I'm Scandinavian, Swedish, and Norwegian. And I thought, oh, it would be interesting to look at my heritage. And then I saw it enough, and I immediately thought, okay, I'll see if Robin can help me with this, because I didn't know why I was being called there. I wasn't sure what I'm supposed to do, but I knew I wanted to put it in motion. And so all that is to say, I wasn't expecting to have a big revelation before I even get there. I'm prefacing all of that. And we did the desire session, and quite a few things came up, but the first was, Robin, I'm so grateful that I saw that I had one of these things, which I talk about, right? Something hidden from my view that was affecting the trip, which was this thought that going to Scandinavia is boring, and that I'm going to go because I'm following the call, but I'm a little resentful about it, and I think it's dumb. If I'm really honest, like that's what was going on, and I didn't even realize it until we went through the session and some of the cards started coming up, and I discovered that through your questions. And it was like people get called to Bali or like Thailand or somewhere that seems exotic, not Scandinavia. And so then I started to think about, well, what does that mean about how I view myself and my heritage? And what if Scandinavians are super magical and I don't even know it, because I'm assuming I have to go, halfway around the world to find that. So I'm really excited to see what I discover. And then the other piece was this kind of looking at, how do I normally do travel, and how do I see myself being when I'm there? And obviously we use that language a lot at Source, that who are you being? And what I realized is, if I just go in default without being really intentional, my beingness would be, okay, I'm going to see the things, go to the places. And I'm not a big scheduled itinerary person, as you know, but just, make some plans. And I probably wouldn't be just walking around curious about where this adventure might lead me. And it's not that I plan everything, but there's a way I have tended to kind of put things in boxes, like, okay, I'm going to be here 3 days and I'll just play there, and then I'll go here for 4 days. But what if I meet a person who wants me to meet a person who maybe there's some reason I'm going that's beyond what I, just go check it off the list and, set foot on the land. So I'm really, you talk a lot about curiosity, and I feel like our session really put me into the place of, I have no idea, which that's been true all along, but I just wasn't excited about it. And now I'm like, ooh, I have no idea. And this could be really exciting.
Yeah. And I remember it even sparked the curiosity around, what if we don't book all of my places in advance? And what could that look like? Yeah. And I think that's there are so many people that they're used to the itinerary, and it can be scary when you don't have that. Yet there's so much possibility when you're really following and trusting Source to guide. It's unlimited what could show up.
The other thing that came up, I remember thinking, normally when I go somewhere, I think I'm not going to try to do everything. If I love it, I'll come back. And for some reason about this, I was like, oh, I'm never going back there, so I better, do it all. And now I'm open. Maybe I'll go back. Maybe I'll love it. Maybe it's a regular place that I'll visit. So I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see what happens and where it will lead me.
Yeah, I'm so excited too. Really, really fun.
So there's a question about radical trust, which, we're kind of touching on curiosity and openness. Tell me what radical trust means to you and why this is so important.
Yeah, so radical. It's one thing when you have trust and you're just like, okay, I'm just gonna surrender in a way to what's known and trust that it's going to happen based on past experience. To me, radical trust is when you're just kind of putting it all in and you're saying, okay, I'm emptying myself and I'm really trusting that I'm going to be guided. It may not make sense. I may not have all of the pieces right now, and that's okay. I don't have to know all of them. And radical trust to me is really, it's the piece that is going to, it's like the commitment when we talk about the anatomy of transformation, and you've got the desire and then there's that discomfort, and the commitment's what brings the two together. To me, that's what radical trust is as well, because it's like you've got this vision of where you want to go, but we're so stuck in figuring out the how.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're embodying radical trust, you don't have to worry about the how, because the how is going to work itself out.
Yeah. I think my example is such a good example of that, because when I was holding this as we're going to make a plan and I'm going to go and I'll do the things on the itinerary, that has a certain energy, as opposed to, oh, I'm really in trust and I'm showing up and I'm trusting this step and that step. Like there's such an aliveness, or, we call it sourced energy versus default energy. But living in that way, we're not going to fall asleep. And we have no idea where that adventure will lead.
Yeah, no idea. And I have a whole catalog of stories around that.
What's your favorite? Random adventure when radical trust led you somewhere surprising.
Well, last year, Brazil, I remember at the beginning of last year, I knew I was ready to travel again and step back into being a nomad. And South America's always been I've been drawn to South America. And so I was writing out places and I was tuning in around like Ecuador, Argentina, and Chile, I think. And so I was really tuning in and I wasn't getting a clear read on any of the places. And so I kind of put it to the side and was like, okay, it'll come. But I was still kind of attached in a way to that energy of one of those places. And then I started, as the months progressed, I started getting signs to go to Brazil. And Brazil was not on my radar at all. I'd been to the other countries before. I'd never been to Brazil. And Spirit kept planting seeds. And it's one of those, it's like once it's in your experience, it starts showing up everywhere. So I would open my computer and the image of the day would be somewhere in Brazil. I went to a conference and the first speaker got on stage and he was talking about Brazil, and not only Brazil, but he has a production company in Brazil and a travel show. And so it's just all of these signs kept pointing to that. And so I said, okay, just show me the way. And so I booked a one-way ticket, and then I connected with somebody from my nomad community, and we didn't really even know each other that well, and she invited me to come and stay with her. And then when I got there, she said, Robin, I don't let just anyone into my home, but something told me to invite you in. And then she ended up being a really big support. And then that led me to this amazing beach town. And I knew I was wanting to do a photo shoot at some point in my journey, but I hadn't researched photographers. And then I got on Instagram, and the first post I see is this gorgeous shot. And I'm like, oh, where is this? And I see a name, and I click on the name, and it turns out that this guy is a photographer. And so then I just reach out to him, and that all was just so magical, and it aligned so beautifully.
Wow.
And yeah, so and now it's like planting seeds, and I've actually been continuing to talk to this person, and I'm actually heading back to Brazil in a couple weeks, and it's a whole new radical trust level. So yeah, so it's one of those areas where I just tell people, I'm like, if you get a hit to go somewhere, trust that is enough.
So as people are listening, who is a solo journey right for? And I'm going to ask about that specifically since I'm going on one and I'm so excited. So like, what would be happening in a person's life or their thought process that would make them say, I want to do this?
Yeah, so I see there's on one hand, it's someone who is maybe in transition, or they're sensing a transition is coming and they're not quite sure what is coming into fruition. So they're feeling there's something that's starting to stir. And so a solo journey would really support on kind of opening that up at that level. And then I would say there's people like you who you have a specific call to go somewhere and you're not entirely sure why. And similar to Brazil, it's like, I got a call to go there and I wasn't sure why.
Yeah.
And it's still unpacking. But I would say it's in those categories where there's some journey that you're meant to take, and there's some curiosity, some call, some pull that you're feeling, and you're not quite certain what that is.
Okay. And I'm hearing a person doesn't need to know where, because you'll do that in the desire session. They don't know a place.
Right.
And it really will reveal itself, I'm guessing, through your process.
Yes.
Beautiful. And then when people come back, you support them in integrating as well?
Yes. So I support in really then we do another session where it's like really taking what you learned and what you experienced, and now let's create how you can step into your life, and so bring that with you wherever you go. Amazing.
Okay, so how can people find out more?
Yes, so they can go to wanderingant.com. That's also my social media handle on Instagram or Facebook, and reach out and send me a message, or you can go on my website and book a curiosity call.
Okay, fabulous. Yeah, so if someone's leaning in, just get on Robin's calendar, because you might be surprised what opens up when you get in her magic. Anything you want to leave people with?
Trust, radical trust. If you're feeling some itch or something that's pulling you, follow that with curiosity and openness.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Robin. I'm so delighted to have you in our sourced community, and I can't wait for my trip.
Yes, I'm so excited.
Thanks for listening, everyone, and we'll see you next time.